A tracker named Hugh, with his half-breed son from his late Indian wife Hawk and other hunters, sneaks through the spring woods in search of meat for dinner. The hero spots a moose and then kills his prey with a well-aimed rifle shot. At this time, a temporary camp of trappers, fur hunters, is attacked by Indians from a hostile tribe. As Hugh cuts up the carcass of the moose, he hears gunshots from their camp. He loads the gun and then rushes to the aid of his comrades. Our hero orders everyone to drop the furs and flee. Then he and a few survivors leave the scene of battle in the hunter's boat. A couple of hours later, having broken away from the pursuit, Hugh offers to leave the boat and proceed on foot, as they are open to the arrows of the redskins on the river. The chief trapper, Captain Andrew, trusts the hero's instincts, and so orders them to take the horses and the remains of the furs and return to Camp Overland. Then the fugitives, hiding the valuable furs among the rocks, advance through the forest. Hugh separates from the men to find game for dinner. However, he is suddenly attacked by a giant grizzly, inflicting terrible wounds. The hero crawls to the fallen-out gun, struggles to aim and shoots the big grizzly in the face. But this does not stop the bear, on the contrary, as the beast attacks the man even more furiously. Nevertheless, Hugh stabs the hunting knife into the giant's neck several times with his last breath. The trappers are concerned about the long absence of the tracker and find Hugh in a pool of blood, pinned by a huge carcass of a dead grizzly. Captain Andrew stitches up the wounds of the half-dead hero. Hunter John, who is aggressive against Hugh and his son, suggests that the men finish off the tracker, as he will not survive with these injuries. Nevertheless, Captain Andrew does not want to abandon the hero. A few days later, the hunters approach the snow-covered mountains, and there is no way they can overcome the steep climb with Hugh's heavy body on a stretcher. Then Andrew offers a reward to anyone who stays to care for the dying man and, after his death, helps Hawk bury his father. The volunteers are a young boy, Jim, and unexpectedly, the bully John, who does not like the hero. In the morning, John, who has already mentally buried the hero and received a bonus for doing so, preliminarily chisels out a grave in the frozen ground. He approaches the tracker's body and then tries to strangle him. Unexpectedly, Hawk returns and tries to stop him from killing his father, but then the guy is killed by John's knife. The hero is foaming at the mouth with rage and powerless, crying as he watches the life leave the body of his only son. Young hunter Jim returns from the river, but he does not find Hawk. Killer tells him that the half-breed boy is missing, and the two of them need to escape urgently, as he has spotted a squad of Indians near the river. John convinces the lad that the tracker won't survive with those wounds anyway, and with the stretcher they won't get away from the Indians. After that, John buries alive Hugh in a pre-arranged hole. After a while, the hero finds the strength to survive and gets out of the grave. Enduring the pain, the hero crawls to the stretcher, wraps himself in the skin of the grizzly he killed, and then he gnaws on the bones of the deer. Having gained some strength, the tracker crawls to the river and drinks icy water. Hugh makes a fire and cauterizes the terrible wound on his throat with gunpowder. After spending the night in the cave, Hugh tries to get to his feet, but falls immediately on a shelf. Then he notices the Indians and is miraculously rescued in the cold waters of the raging river. The powerful current carries the weak and wounded man through several dangerous rapids. However, he survives by grasping a driftwood floating by. Our young Jim, who escaped with John supposedly from the Indians, guesses that the mercenary hunter has tricked him. However, the boy is much weaker than his opponent, and alone has no chance of escape, so he is forced to follow him. After 24 hours, the hunters reach the trappers' settlement. At the entrance to the settlement, John orders Jim to conceal the truth or they will be hanged. The cunning hunter tricks Captain Andrew and receives a large cash reward. At this time, many kilometers away from the settlement, Hugh catches a fish with a stone trap and eats the prey alive. Then the man continues on his way. The tracker sees a herd of bison running away from a pack of wolves. After waiting for the predators to eat and leave, he falls asleep. The hero is awakened by the light of the fire. He sees that an unfamiliar lone Indian has driven away the wolves and is carving the carcass of a fallen bison. The ranger crawls closer and asks for a piece of meat in Indian, then greedily eats it and falls asleep. In the morning, the Indian looks at the sleeping hero's body, which is covered with horrible scars. The Indian wakes him up, and then learns how he suffered such mutilations. The survivor, Hugh, tells the truth about how his son was killed and left for dead, buried alive. The Indian says that his tribe has also been killed, and he is looking for living relatives. The Indian then offers the Pathfinder a ride on horseback with him. On the second day of their journey, a storm rises, and the Pathfinder falls into unconsciousness because of inflammation. The red-skinned partner builds a shelter from the weather. Then he treats the hero's wounds, which are beginning to rot. 24 hours later, Hugh regains consciousness and feels his best. Soon he finds the body of his Indian friend, who had been caught and hanged by European marauders camped nearby. These same marauders have kidnapped the Indian chief's daughter to have fun with her. As one of the marauders amuses himself, the hero crawls up behind him, steals the gun and unleashes one of the horses. The rescued Indian woman takes revenge on the bandit by cutting off his organ, and then, together with Hugh, shoots several bandits and hides on horseback. The tracker does not notice that he has lost the flask presented to him by the young hunter Jim. Saying goodbye to the girl, the man warms himself by the fire at a rest spot, covered with a grizzly skin, obtained in the battle. Suddenly an arrow plunges into the trunk of a tree, and the hero pulls out a trophy gun, tries to shoot back, and then jumping on a horse tries to get away from the Indians. The animal gets an arrow in the leg and goes off a cliff with the rider. However, the hero survives. Once again, a heavy snowstorm begins, so to avoid freezing to death, Hugh cuts out the insides of the dead horse. Then he undresses and hides in the still warm carcass of the animal. At this time, the only outlaw left alive after a gunfight with a tracker sneaks into a settlement of hide hunters. He asks for food in exchange for a flask, which young hunter Jim immediately recognizes as his gift to Hugh. Captain Andrew, learning that Hugh may still be alive, urgently outfits a search party. Soon they find the exhausted hero. Captain Andrew is furious, looking for John, who killed Hawk and tried to bury tracker Hugh alive, plus robbed his firm of a huge sum of money by robbing a safe. Andrew beats Jim and makes him recite the Lord's Prayer, nearly shooting him, but he suddenly changes his mind and puts him in jail. Soon the hero learns that his main enemy John has escaped. Hugh asks for a gun and a horse to hunt down the dastardly hunter, for he clearly has not managed to get far. In the morning, Hugh and Captain Andrew, who was afraid to let the weak hero go together in pursuit of the murderer and thief John. At the foot of the mountains, the men separate, after which the trapper commander dies after being ambushed by the traitor hunter. Pathfinder finds a dead friend with his scalp removed, and continues in pursuit of the enemy. John notices two horses, and on one of them sits Hugh, while the other is carrying the corpse of Captain Andrew. With an accurate shot, John hits the hero, and he collapses in the snow. The satisfied traitor rides up to the corpse, but notices that on the horse with a slingshot the dead Andrew has been secured in a sitting position, and the hero plays the role of the corpse on the second horse. Hugh and John wound each other, and a fight ensues in which the tracker uses his tomahawk to cut off a couple of the killer's fingers and the latter stabs a hunting knife into his palm. The bloodied enemies inflict terrible wounds on each other. Suddenly a squad of Indians, led by the tribal chief whose daughter was saved by the hero, arrives at the scene of the fight. The tracker puts John in the hands of the chief. After which the Indian scalps him alive. Mortally wounded and miraculously surviving, Hugh sees his dead wife, and realizes that very soon he will join her and his son. That's the end of the movie. Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. Write in the comments if you liked the movie. Subscribe to the channel and like this video. See you all in new videos.